Hare Krishna. Jayo Prabhu Madhava Kunna Vihakati Jayo Randa Madhava Kunna Vihakati Gopi Nanamalaba Hirivada Jagati Gopi Janabalaba Hirivada Jagati Yasunanana Pratajana Ranjana Yasunanana Pratajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Manachade Yamuna Tira Manachade Jairanu Madhava Kunna Vihagati Jairanu Madhava Kunna Vihagati Gopi Janabalaba Iri Baladhati Gopi Janabalaba Iri Baladhati Yasodanandana Brajachana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajachana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Manachante Yamuna Tira Manachante Jairantu Madhava Kunna Vihagate Jairadu Madhava Kunna Vihagate Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya Also Tada Sachashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Machuram Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Srimati Vilasini. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhaktivedanta Samariti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shandavati Paschachit. These attorneys. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 60th chapter, text 39. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Twang Nyasta Danda Munibir Gaditanubhava Atmatma Dash Cha Jagatam Iti Me Rito Asi Hitwa Bavad Muruva Udirata Kala Vega Vastashisho Abja Bhava Naka Patin Kuto Anye Tvam Yaschatanda Muni Birgaritanu Pava Atmatma Dascha Gagatam Iti Me Vritosi Hitva Bhavad Bravavidirita Kala Vega Vastashishobjak Bhavadaka Patim Kutonye Amnyastatanda Muni Virgaritanu Pava Atmatascha Jagatamiti Me Vritosi Hitva Bhavad Bruvavadirita Kala Vega Vasta Shishobjak Bhava Naka Patim Kutonye Tvam Yaschatanda Muni Birgaditanu Bhava Atmatma Tascha Katatam Iti Me Vritosi Hitva Bhavad Bravagudirita Kala Vega Vastasya Shobja Bhavanaka Patim Kutonye. Hey, ladies. Right? Twam, you. Nyasta, who have renounced. Danda, the sannyasi's staff. Munibe, by sages. Gadata, spoken of. Anubhava, whose prowess. Atma, the supreme soul. Atma, your own self. Da, who give away. Cha, also. Jagatam, of all the worlds. Iti, thus. Me, by me. Vrita, chosen. Asi, you have been. Hitwa, rejecting. Bhavat, your. Ruva, from the eyebrows. Udirita, generated. Kala, of time. Vega, by the impulses. Vasta, destroyed. Ashasha, whose hopes. Abja, lotus-born Lord Brahma. Bhava, Lord Shiva. Naka, of heaven. Patin, the masters. Kuta, what then of? Anye, others. So, translation. Knowing the great sages who have renounced the sannyasis done to proclaim your glories, that you are the supreme soul of all the worlds, and you are so gracious that you give away even your own self. I choose you as my husband, rejecting Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the rulers of heaven, whose aspirations are all frustrated by the force of time, which is born from your eyebrows. What interest, then, could I have in any other suitors? So you can repeat, knowing that the great sages who renounced the sannyasis danda proclaim your glories, that you are the supreme soul of all the worlds, and that you are so gracious that you give away even your own self. I choose you as my husband. I actually chose you as my husband. Yeah, I chose you as my husband. Rejecting Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the rulers of heaven, whose aspirations are all frustrated by the force of time, which is born from your eyebrows. What interest, then, could I have in any other suitors? So purport by the disciples and followers of Srila Prabhupada. This is Queen Rukmini's refutation of Lord Krishna's statement in text 16. There, the Lord Krishna says, Bhikshubhi shlaghita muda. I'm glorified by beggars. But Queen Rukmini points out that those so-called beggars are actually sages in the Paramahansa stage of life, sannyasis who have reached the highest level of spiritual advancement and thus given up the sannyasi rod. Lord Krishna also made two specific accusations against his wife in text 16. He said, Vaidarbhyatad avidaya. My dear Vaidarbhi, you are not aware of the situation, and tvaya dhirga samikshya, because you lack foresight. In the present verse, Rukmini's statement, iti me vritosi, indicates, I chose you as my husband because you possess the above-mentioned qualities. It was not a blind choice at all. Rukmini further mentions that she passed over lesser personalities like Brahma, Shiva, and the rulers of heaven because she saw that even though, materially speaking, they are great personalities, they are frustrated by the powerful waves of time, which emanate from the eyebrows of Lord Krishna. Therefore, far from lacking foresight, Rukmini chose Lord Krishna after an exhaustive appraisal of the entire cosmic situation. Thus she lovingly rebukes her husband here. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur interprets Rukmini's mood as follows. My dear husband, your accusation that I lack foresight indicates that you do not know of my deep insight into the situation. Actually, I chose you because I knew of your true glories. So again, the verse. Tvam yaschatanda munivir garitana bhava atmatmadascha jagatam iti me vritosi hitva bhavad bravaturdirit kala vega Vasthashishobja Bhavanakapatin Kutonye. So Omegana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakayat Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. Not going to be much time for class, but I wanted to read some of the commentaries of the Acharyas, which are quite instructive in this regard. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states, In this verse, she replies to Krishna's statement, "O fool, I am praised only by beggars," explaining the meaning of the word bhikshu. She speaks of the excellence of being praised by the bhikshu. Those who have renounced the danda are called bhikshu. Your powers are praised, kadit anubhava. By the bhikshus of Paramahamsas, you are Paramatma, Atma, the dearmost of everyone, being the soul of everyone. Therefore, praising you is not foolish. Rather, if you say it is foolish, you are foolish. It's interesting. If you say it is foolish, then you are foolish. Anyway, knowing that you give yourself to those in the universe who worship you, I've chosen you as my husband. You said, out of ignorance, you've chosen me as your husband. This shows that you do not know my intelligence in this matter. Rejecting persons such as Brahma, whose benedictions are all destroyed by the force of time, emanating from the movement of your eyebrow, I have chosen you. What then to speak of rejecting inferior persons like those kings? You have said, I am short-sighted, but you are not aware of my foresight. Interesting. I mean, she understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet at the same time, she's saying, you're not aware. So it's really an interesting dynamic. If you're saying, I'm not aware, I wasn't aware, you're not aware of how I was aware. Even though Sarvasya Chaham Ridi Sanavishto Matak Smritir Jnanam Ponam Chat, and it's also Ishwara Sarvabhutanam Getwa. So I am situated in the heart of all living entities, and certainly Krishna is situated in Rukmini's heart. And she's aware of that, and she's aware that Krishna is transcendental, yet she says, you are not aware. It's such an interesting dynamic. So it illustrates, even though she doesn't directly manifest what? Man, anger, right? Because she is like a right-handed wife. Right-handed means, she's submissive. Which you contrast that with Satyabhama, who is left-handed, and she's unsubmissive because she's an expansion of who? Srimati Radharani. And Rukmini is considered to be an expansion of Chandravali. So in this way, she's, her anger is there, but it's just like, was it sublimated? It's coming out, it was in sarcasm. It sounds very sarcastic here, doesn't it? You have said that I'm short-sighted, but you were not aware of my foresight. She's Jiva Goswami. Just so interesting dynamic. I mean, there's a lot of things here. She speaks this verse on remembering the battle with the kings. Your glorious Anubhava are voiced by the sages, Atmaramas, who have given up pride, Yasya Danda, and thus beggars. She then describes those glories. You, the Swarup of all things, Atma, means the soul of all souls, give yourself. As the instigator of time, you have made it continuous. Your devotees are eternal, but not the rest. I reject devatas like Indra and even Brahma, Abjabhava, and their blessings, since they remain alive only for movement of your eyebrow. She shows disrespect to Brahma and the rest. She does not mention Shiva because he was not the object of her attention. This omission was caused by her intense emotions. Though her attraction to Krishna was natural and spontaneous and not dependent on logical analysis, some deliberation was necessary in spite of the spontaneity. Taking advantage of that portion of logic, she came to the proper conclusion. Since she was doing so was proper for her. Since doing so, was proper for her. And finally, Sanatana Goswami's commentary. Your glories are sung even by the sannyasis who aspire for liberation, Yasya Danda. What to speak of Narada and the others who disregard liberation? What is that glory? You are the Atma, the Antaryami, that means the soul inside, the Lord. And you give yourself Atma Da. You are chosen by me. The choice is fixed. As the instigator of time, you are not controlled by time or limited by time. You exist eternally in Vaikuntha. The aspirations of Brahma and others remain only for the time that you move your eyebrow. I reject Brahma, what to speak of Indra and the other Devatas. Shiva is not mentioned since he is included in the Devatas. So, then we'll speak a little bit about this. First of all, I wanted to talk about the expression of the sages who have renounced their danda. Now, why would sages renounce their danda? It's very interesting because, you take sannyas. Sannyas means what? The danda refers to what? A body, mind, and word serving the Supreme Personality of God. It's actually Tridanda. Of course, there's also Ekadanda. And then we have the example of when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, he received a danda. And what happened with that danda? When they were on the way to Jagannath Puri, what did Lord Nityananda do? He broke the danda in 3 pieces and actually threw it in the river, and the river is known as Danda Banga Nadi, where the danda was broken. And Prabhupada explains very interestingly about this breaking of the danda or giving up the danda in his purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, the mystery of the danda staff of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been explained by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the order of sannyas from Mayavadi. Mayavadi sannyasi just generally carry one staff or danda. Taking advantage of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's absence, Sri Nityananda Prabhu broke the staff into 3 parts and threw it into the river named as the Dangabanga Nadi. So, then Prabhupada explains, in the sannyas order, there are 4 divisions, Guti, Chak, Bahuda, Kamsa, and Paramahansa. Only when the sannyasi remains on the Kuti, Chak, and Bahudak platforms can he carry a staff. However, when one is elevated to the status of Hamsa, so in other words, a sannyasi who renounces the danda, at least, of course, we can't say that every sannyasi in the ISKCON who has renounced the danda is a Paramahamsa, but traditionally that's the system. Therefore, we find that many sannyasis in ISKCON retain the danda because of their humility, because they don't want to declare, even though some of them may be hamsas or paramahamsas, which means topmost swan-like person, still they're doing it out of humility. So, and of course, Srila Prabhupada sometimes used the danda and sometimes didn't, depending upon the situation. Actually, Prabhupada was interested more in what's called yukta vairagya. Yukta vairagya means doing what's necessary, accepting what's necessary to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because there's actually 2 things. One is called Falgu vairagya, and the other one is called yukta vairagya. In other words, as a sannyasi or as a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada was following Srila Rupa Goswami's injunctions in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which are found. There's actually 2 verses which are really important, 255 to 256. One is, Anashaktasya Vishayan Yatharam Upayunjata Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktavairagyam Uchate. And the second one is Prapanchakataya Budya Hadisambandha Vastuna Amokshavi Purityago Vairagyam Falgu Katyate. And the translation that Srila Prabhupada gives of these 2 verses is when one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. Prabhupada explains in this regard that a Krishna-conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna, and thus he is always free from feelings of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He is always aloof from material things because he is always transcendental, and he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi. So in other words, this renunciation of the danda is done basically for one's own personal advancement and devotional service. So that why would one renounce a danda for one's own personal advancement? Not because it's so heavy. It's such a pain to carry, which it is. Actually, I remember when I first took sannyasa, I had a danda. Just traveling in the airplane was difficult, and every time you go through customs, they would want to see what's inside, thinking it was drugs, and they had to unravel the thing, and you had like 200 meters of cloth. You come out of the customs room and covered with cloth, because then you had to wrap it again with cloth and 3 pieces of bamboo and an extra piece of bamboo. But actually, one renounced traditionally the danda because that means renouncing one's prestige. You understand? There was one time I was talking to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he was lamenting the one time. This is a funny story. I don't know if I should repeat it, but I always say that before I repeat something. One time, he went to the temple in Mayapur without his danda. At that time, all the sannyasis carry the danda. You see pictures of Prabhupada with all the dandas in front of him. They're all bouncing back and forth, especially when they're in Bhagavatam class and the devotees are falling asleep. The dandas are falling down. But anyway, he said he was lamenting the one time he went to the kirtan, or was greeting the deities or something, and he didn't carry his danda, and he said, people didn't respect me. Because, danda, at that time, danda, anyway, you offer respects to someone who was a sannyasi, and especially it was a sign, oh my God, you offer respects, or else you have to fast for the whole day, or fast for half of the day, or something like that. So, he was saying this humorously. Not that he was actually desiring respect, the Dandam, the Jandam, Sundari, but so to renounce the danda means to renounce one's respect in society. And traditionally, when a sannyasi took sannyas and renounced the danda, he also renounced his Brahman threat. It's interesting, isn't it? He renounced his shika, both of which are signs of the Brahminical status. And he would just wear a loincloth or gamsha, and in this way, his whole status was renounced, and that was a step to become renounced from this material world, because we understand, again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed us, amanina manadena, we shouldn't expect respect. And so this is actually a major impediment in devotional service, getting respect. And of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about this in terms, trying to take care of this cough drop at the same time to talk. Kind of hard. So in terms of one of the sources of anarthas, because one of the sources of anarthas is advancement in devotional service. But what happens when you get advanced in devotional service, then people respect you. And then you begin to think that you're respectable. So therefore, that's why the sannyasi would renounce the danda, the shika, and everything like that. So that's one point. That's why Rukmini is stated that you are respected by those who renounce the danda. Now, those who have no other interest in this material world. The danam, the janam, the sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamaya, mama janmani shure, bhavatat bhaktir, ahaituki twaye. Another point here, this verse, which I found really, really important, is that Rukmini is making the point that she accepted Krishna after mature consideration. And she says, there were the emotions, there are the feelings and everything like that, but that has to be tempered or controlled or directed by mature deliberation, philosophical understanding. And Prabhupada comments on this, and he actually talks about this in terms of what he calls blind following. And there's a verse, purport actually, to Bhagavad Gita, verse 34 in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Prabhupada states, in this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must get a clear understanding from him. That means, and Prabhupada mentions how that is done, in submission and service and inquiries. A bona fide spiritual master is by nature, very kind toward the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. So, another verse, interesting verse, how we should use our intelligence in applying Krishna consciousness and understanding Krishna rather than accepting things blindly, is Sri Chaitanya Daya Karaha Vichar Karile Chite Pabe Chamatkara. And the translation of this verse, which is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, obviously, Adi Leela 8:15, is if you're indeed interested in logic and argument, kindly apply it to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If you do so, you will find it to be strikingly wonderful. In other words, we should utilize our intelligence in understanding the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. In order to utilize our intelligence, in order to understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is required that we exhaustively study Srila Prabhupada's books. And actually Prabhupada says one who doesn't read regularly or hear regularly will go away. Because we are meant to function on the intelligence platform. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, it is not that we had, at the beginning of performing Krishna consciousness, it is not that our realization is so fixed. It is not that we are experiencing ecstasy at every minute. It is not that we are not attracted to different aspects of the material energy. So therefore we have to apply intelligence, which is described by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita as higher than the mind. The mind's business, I was listening to a class by Srila Prabhupada this morning. Prabhupada was mentioning the mind's business is sankalpa vikalpa. That means accepting things and rejecting things, but accepting things and rejecting things if we are not great devotees, pure devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, based upon what pleases us and what displeases us. In other words, we reject things if they displease us, and we accept things if they please us. So Therefore, excuse me. Therefore, intelligence has to be applied in our lives, and Prabhupada describes that intelligence is applied properly as the form direction of the super soul. So Rukmini here is pointing out that she used her intelligence in deciding to marry the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, any questions or comments about these points? Questions, comments? No? Everyone's, yes. Yeah. 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 Well, his internal motive was something different. Yeah, but the external motive, yeah. Well, first of all, excuse me. First of all, he didn't want to give up the danda. It was Nityananda who broke his danda. And he was very upset with Nityananda. If you read the whole story, both in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Chaitanya Bhagavat, that he was so upset with Lord Nityananda, he water's not going to help. He proceeded to Jagannath Puri without anyone else. You know, he's just like danda is my only possession in this world. And so he just went ahead, and that's where, of course, he fainted when he saw Lord Jagannath, and the guards were thinking he had passed away, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brought him to his house. So you could see that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally had no desire to give up his danda. Yet Lord Nityananda, in order to glorify Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he broke, of course the danda also means he became a tree danda, sannyasa, but he didn't later on take up a danda. And so, but then at the same time you find Lord Nityananda, getting back to the principle of yukta vairagya, which I don't suggest that sannyasis follow, the Lord Nityananda renounced his status as like sannyasi avaduta. I don't know if he didn't formally take sannyas, but he was known as, you know, an avaduta. An avaduta means someone who's like the wind, someone who's renounced, and he got married. So he's showing the principle of accepting things that are favorable for devotional service. That was the point I was making about Srila Prabhupada sometimes using a danda and sometimes not using a danda. He would do what is favorable. And I know the only time I actually do use a danda is when I go to South India. Because in South India, they actually listen to you more if you have a danda in your hand. So that's the point. Now, why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not accept... Oh my God. Make another danda for himself? I don't know. But he accepted... Wow. What lungs. All glorious to...
Purusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham bhajami Govindam
Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Enam kanvandam Maravindadalaya taksham Bharavatam samasitam Buddha sundaram Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Andani yasa sakale Priya priti manti Vasyan dipan dikayanti Chiram naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham bhajami Govindam
Namaho Vishnu Pajaya Krishna Staya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Samanichi Namande Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvan Nipacharane Nivasesha Shunyamale Vasachat Satarne Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sari Gaurmata Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sari Gaurmata Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Ramanityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Narvati Vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Kinana Radha, Kinana Radha. Jaya Radha, Kinana Radha. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Shri Radhe Jai Om Vishnu Pad. This God and founder.
Let's all remember that Mother Krishna Priya is recovering and keep our prayers going for her quick recovery. And Saturday it's going to be 70 degrees and sunny, so please come to Chapel Hill between 4 and 6 for Harinam Sankirtan. Haribo. Chaitodarpanam arjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam shreya kairavya chandrika vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Dharamijaya. Thank you very much. Yeah. Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Etadrishi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajjani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Turorapi Suhishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Ohaitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vabhata Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrishim Vachintaya Nayanam Galashu Daraya Varanam Gad Gadrudaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tava Navagrahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Bhavashayatam Shrunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahena Me Ashlisha Vapadamratam Manastumam Adarshanam marmahata karotu va yatatatava vidadatu lampato mat prananatas sa eva napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up in this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Ki Jai.